that other members of our committee are also presenting this statement simultaneously. We're presenting here to you all, obviously, at the County Commissioners meeting, and others are presenting at the City Council, Old Fort Board of Aldermen, and McDowell County School Board meetings as well. You all are no strangers to the fact that this year's brought to the surface multiple pandemics facing our community, including homelessness, poverty, food insecurity, and systemic racism. In response to these challenges, we've seen many of our community members step up into brave spaces and show up for their neighbors with courage and dignity. They've organized rapid response support by providing healthy food boxes, emergency supplies, and critical resources for residents. After the murder of George Floyd by police in Minneapolis, residents have also grappled with issues related to historic racism by hosting the Shine the Light Vigil, attending racial equity training, and creating the Old Fort Together mural. Our work is all about shining a light, and today we're here to do that. Today we're asking for you to step up as formal leaders of McDowell County and to continue to help us as we continue to see institutional racism show up in policies and systems, including in our school system, healthcare system, nonprofit system, and local government. Our work to engage the voices of historically excluded communities have surfaced many of these challenges. For example, you may recall that our youth of color have bravely shared their experiences with racism through a Photo Voice project where they stated, "We're pretty constantly aware that most white people fear us, especially in groups, including our teachers." Another youth has shared, "Our teachers and leaders don't seem to want to or know how to address things related to our experiences." One recent event, which was recorded by a student on their phone in the classroom, shows a teacher reinforcing stereotypes about immigrants and Black people, spreading falsehoods about COVID-19 safety measures, and preaching white power. This is entirely unacceptable, and we know that the school system is working to address this incident. Moreover, in Old Fort, Black elders have stated that our souls are in the dirt here, but that is not reflected in the history and the narrative that's told about this town. Other leaders in the Black community have asked that white people stand up and speak out against the injustices that they're continuing to face. Now is the time for us to heed that call and commit to undoing the harm caused by generations of historic racism, including the lack of knowledge and education we have on this topic. It's not up to communities of color to teach us about racism. We must do the work. White people created racism, and it's up to us to undo it. We must unlearn the ways we've been conditioned by white supremacy and make visible how it shows up in our policies, systems, and individual biases. Let us be clear on this point. Racism does not just affect communities of color. Racism hurts all of us. It scars our humanity when we look away from it, ignore it, and dismiss it. Its purpose is to divide us and stop us from uniting against the injustices that affect us all, which are greed, corruption, poor health, and generational poverty. As a mostly all-white leadership on our county boards, it's time for you to get approximate to the issue and to change the course of history so we can create a brighter future for all. Today, we're asking the formal leaders of McDowell County, including you all, our county commissioners, Old Fort Board of Aldermen, City of Marion, and McDowell School Board to step up and voice your support for racial equity in our community. We ask that you take the following actions. 1, immediately convene a racial equity task force made up of leaders from across your boards to educate yourself on these issues and identify achievable actions and policy changes you can take to advance racial equity in our community. Our steering committee, which we referenced at the beginning of this presentation, is ready to help you form this task force. Number 2, declare that racism is a public health crisis and publicize a racial equity statement by the end of 2021 outlining the actions your board will take to address this issue in our community. Our steering committee is ready to help you write this statement. And finally, number 3, commit each of your board members, including the county manager, city manager, mayor, and school superintendent, to attend a racial equity training hosted by the Racial Equity Institute by the end of 2021. Again, our steering committee is ready to sponsor any of you to attend this training at no cost to you. In closing, we're committed to working in partnership with you on this issue and this critical work to support our policies and institutions to be more accountable, inclusive, and equitable towards communities of color. We know that it takes a village, and we invite you to be a part of this work and our movement to advance racial equity in our hometown. Thank you, and I know that was a lot of information, so Ms. Kitty here has the statement printed out, and she's going to hand
If
anyone else?
commissioners have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions, comments?